Hello everyone. 2019, October 29th, 2019. I want to share a remarkable experience that happened to me. The day before that, I had worked out. A really intense workout. I ran 5 kilometers, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups. I even did 22 to 23 pull-ups. I was in great shape. I was at the forum. I was feeling really good. I felt fantastic. We had gone out to eat with the kids. We came back in the evening. Of course, there's no elevator in the building. Since there's no elevator, I live on the 4th floor. I climbed up 4 flights of stairs. For the first time, I felt my heart tighten like that. At that moment, I even turned to my wife and said, "Oh, honey, I guess we're getting old now." That's what I said. I said, "I'm out of breath," and so on. She said, "Yeah, these kinds of things happen when you get older." That's what she said to me. It got to a certain time at night. It was around 12:15 at night. The kids had gone to bed. I was just watching TV. While I was watching TV, I suddenly felt an incredible pain in my chest. I felt pain. I can't remember ever feeling pain like that before. But I realized there was something wrong with my heart. There was definitely something wrong with my heart. I became completely convinced of it. I immediately lay down on the floor. Excuse me for saying this. I'm sorry. I started coughing like that. When I coughed, I felt the pain ease a little. Suddenly, it was gone, as if nothing had happened. I went back to watching TV. 7 or 8 minutes passed, maybe less. I'm not exactly sure. This time they applied a firm pressure to my chest along with my back. Pressure. It was such a pressure, you wouldn't believe it. Even my jaw muscles started to ache. I immediately coughed again. No. Excuse me, I went to throw up. No. I just want to feel relieved, you know. I stepped out onto the balcony. I took a breath. No. Then I realized there was a problem. It didn't go away at all. I immediately looked down from the balcony. I saw that the ambulance was downstairs. It was in a place where the military lodgings were. Of course, I went downstairs, but as I was going down, God is my witness, you wouldn't believe it. At the same time, I was struggling with myself. The image keeps cutting out. Fatih Barakma, you keep repeating yourself. The image goes away, then comes back again. So I went down all 4 floors and went straight to the ambulance. I told the guy there, the attendant, that I wasn't feeling well, that I was having a heart attack because of my stomach. He asked if I was sure. I said I was sure and told him that I know myself very well. To him, the ambulance was a well-equipped one. They did an EKG. Nothing showed up on the EKG. They checked my blood pressure. There was blood pressure. Meanwhile, I was freezing. really cold. Doctor, don't waste any time. I told him, take me to the nearest hospital. To him. So they quickly took me and brought me to Gazi Hospital, Gazi Medical in Ankara of Gazi University. We entered the emergency room. We were in the green zone. The doctor said the same things. But look, this is one of the most important points. I'm saying this with complete sincerity. The first question asked by the doctor and the medical staff in the ambulance, as well as everyone involved in my surgery and during the operation, literally everyone, the very first question they asked was this. This is very important. Do you smoke? Do you drink alcohol? What is it really? Of course, I haven't used either. Up until today, I haven't had the slightest interest in cigarettes or alcohol. I never felt any interest either because I was into sports. Anyway, they checked my blood values there. After that, they checked my blood pressure and so on. Everything was coming out completely normal, but in the meantime, I was feeling incredibly cold. At that moment, the doctor acted like I was a hypochondriac, like I was exaggerating the situation and said, "You have nothing at all, you can go." I said, "Doctor, look, I've been a soldier for years. I know myself very well. I'm an athlete. Up until today, I've never been the kind of person to say, I'm sick, or this part of me hurts, or that part of me hurts. Look, there's something wrong with me." He said, "Nothing shows up to me." I said, "Doctor, I don't want to argue, but don't you have a cardiac emergency department?" I said. He said, "All right, then go there too." They took me from the emergency room and brought me to the cardiac emergency department. I was lying there stretched out. The doctor came to my side. God bless her, they really took good care of me. I could never deny what she did for me. Sometimes I get emotional like this. I said, "Doctor, I'm in so much pain, I really can't stand it. My chest really hurts and all that." She said to me, "Mr. Fatih, it's okay. We've already done the necessary interventions." She said, "You won't have any problems left." She said, "We're giving you an IV and such." Of course, while I was lying there, she came to my side again. About 7 to 8 minutes passed in between. I'm lying down. Across from me, in my doctor's office, later I found out she was a doctor. She was right in front of me, busy with something on the floor. I said, "Doctor, I feel like I'm about to faint." She said, "It's okay, Mr. Fatih. There's nothing to worry about." I said, "Doctor, I'm fainting." I said it more insistently. Thankfully, she turned around, looked at me, right into my pupils, and at that moment I was gone. Of course, I thought I had just fainted. I mean, people always talk about it, mention it, but for the first time, I actually saw that white light there. Man, there really is a white light. Look, I'm telling you clearly.
You find yourself in a dark place.
No, it's really a pure white light. Everything around me was completely different. Let me put it this way for you. You know how in big factories there are those pipes, the ones where air or smoke comes out? It was like I was inside one of those pipes. I felt like I was moving upward, and from my right and left, like this. I mean, look, it might sound like I'm exaggerating. People might think that, but I'm really not. Seriously, I'm not exaggerating. I'm saying this because I actually experienced it. People were going upward from my right and left as well. And of course, I was also going upward myself. I was thinking, why aren't they waking me up, the person who fainted? Is it supposed to take this long? That's what I was thinking. Then, of course, some everyday things came to my mind. I thought, oh no, this work is going to get delayed. This job is going to be held up and all that. While I was thinking like this, a little more time passed. I thought, why on earth aren't they waking me up? Normally in this family, people would be woken up quickly. I mean, isn't that right? That's normal, right? But suddenly, you know, like when you get punched in a fight, or you get hurt, or you hit your head hard somewhere, or you get hit on the head with a stick. I mean, like that. One day I just woke up like that. My God, I said, teacher, is this how you wake someone up? I even reacted. I looked and there were 2 doctors and 3 nurses were at my head. Mr. Fati, breathe, Mr. Fati, breathe. I said, teacher, is this how you wake someone up? Mr. Fati, what do you mean, wake you up? You died, he said. You came back with a shock. I brought you back by force, he said, to me. Of course, I was shocked too, right at that moment. I said, teacher, don't be afraid. At worst, we die. He said, please, teacher, don't die. He said, come on, breathe, I beg you, to me. You know, that sincerity right there brought life back to me. Let me put it that way for you. Anyway, so like this, I came to my senses. I took deep breaths. At that moment, one of the nurses said, doctor, should we give atropine? You know, like, should we give adrenaline instead of atropine? 1 milligram. He said, no, give 2 milligrams. They were that scared. They gave 2 milligrams of atropine. I mean, it was really interesting. I felt like I was flying above the clouds. I mean, that's how much, doctor? I said, okay, I'm fine now. No problem. I said, there's absolutely no problem. I mean, I'm perfectly fine. No, Mr. Fati, where are you going? Wait, hold on. He said, me. Anyway, they rushed me out of there. We went to the angiography room. During the angiography, of course, they tried to open up the artery and all that. They tried really hard. And of course, I was watching on the screen too. But it just wasn't working. The artery wasn't opening. How can I put it with what was there? They share these images with you and the doctor on video. I mean, the image. At that point, they said there was nothing else they could do. They rushed me to the coronary ICU. Of course, I was hooked up to cables all over, and so on. In the coronary intensive care, they started giving me a lot of blood thinners. Let me connect to the device. One of the nurses, bless her, from health management, one of them, she never left my side. They said, if you're not even going to take a single step, stay downstairs. So I stayed in the coronary intensive care unit like that. The next day, the head of the department, a professor, Dr. Bulent, I think, he came. He said, we have a young patient here. Of course, since it's Gazi University, there were students around. We were chatting and the guy was telling stories. He explained how this one has this and that one has that, just telling us about different things. I said, Professor, can I ask a question? I asked, why do you think I might have had a heart attack? To the doctor. He asked, do you smoke? I said, no. Do you drink alcohol? I said, no. How old are you? 47. How about your nightlife? I said, my nightlife is regular. As military personnel, I don't have those issues. Everything is normal and fine. He said, that's strange. I'm really curious. And honestly, I was curious too. He said, why did you have a heart attack then? He said, let's take another look, just in case. He said, excuse me, I'll come back to see you again in an hour. He kindly left. And sure enough, he came back to me an hour later. He had checked the CD, you know, the angio CD, and came to me. Then he said, can I tell you something, sir? He said, you are actually a textbook example of a patient with a genetic disease. Your body is very strong, you are very young, your resistance is very high, you don't smoke, you don't drink alcohol. But from your mother, so he asked about my mom, and I said, yes, my mother also had a bypass at 52. I had told him that. But he said, you have completely inherited your mother's genes. You've had heart attacks because of genetics. But he said, I think you are a conscious patient. Normally, the first heart attack would take you right away, but you managed to make it this far, he said. He said, don't be afraid at all. You're very young. He said, your three main arteries are blocked, 96, 98. And I think one is 100% blocked. Rather than just blockages, plaques have formed at the entry and exit points of the arteries. He told me, with those plaques, it's actually impossible for you to have lived this long. He said, it's a good thing you've done intense sports, like kickboxing, boxing, or even just regular sports and so on. It's good that you've done these. He said, your muscles are strong to me. So, what are we going to do? He told me, you should have a bypass without even thinking about it. Don't even hesitate. He said, because you really don't have any other option. He said, right now you're only alive because of medication, with blood thinners for me. So this time we decided on the bypass. You're scared, wondering, should I have it done here or should I go to another doctor? But I always say this, never at any time. It's always good to trust the state's doctors. May God bless all of them. They took great care of me. I happened to get a doctor named Abdullah. May God bless him many times over. He said, when it's time for the bypass, I'll be the one to do it. Then they took me again from there. They took me to the cardiac emergency department, to the cardiac emergency section. I spent a few days there. Of course, in the meantime, they were stopping my cancer medication so I could have the bypass. It was a Wednesday, so about 4 days had passed, give or take. Normally, they were going to take me in on Monday for the surgery, but it ended up being Wednesday. Around 3:30 or 4 o'clock, I wanted to lie down and get some sleep. I really needed that. I turned to my right side, then I woke up again. My wife was by my side. I said, Ferda, I feel really bad. I told her, it's like I'm reliving that night again. I'm going through it all over again. I'm in really bad shape. I'm probably having another heart attack. They rushed over right away, of course. Thank God it was just the right time for something like this. The doctors were coming up to the wards from the outpatient clinics. So they called them right away. Thankfully, the doctor came immediately. He checked and said, Fatih, you're having a heart attack. The doctor who was going to operate on me. Coincidentally, he was there at the time. He was caring. He said, Fatih, stay calm. You're having a heart attack, but we've got you. You're in safe hands. Don't worry. They said, we're taking you right away. They immediately took me to the cardiac emergency room, to the surgical department. They were trying to bring my levels down to normal. Let me tell you something. I said, how is it? Just so it wouldn't be exaggerated. I entered such a safe environment. Right there, the nurses greeted me, the orderly greeted me. They immediately undressed me. They said, just stay calm, brother. You're here. Everything's clean. There's no problem at all. Naturally, you feel embarrassed, brother. But they said, no need for that here. Just focus on yourself. You're doing fine. We'll take care of you. And so on anyway. At 8 in the morning, they took me. We went to the place. It was time for the bypass surgery. There was nothing else to do. We went to the operating room, brother. I was passing through this maze-like environment. Of course, I was really shocked. I went in there. I did what was necessary. The anesthesiologist was really good. God bless him. He was a very experienced doctor. He asked, are you ready? I said, honestly, I'm not ready. So what can we do? Hold on a second. I said, let me recite the Shahada first. I might not come back. Yeah. He smiled at me, bless him. Anyway, they brought me in, man, to the thing. They administered the anesthesia. Of course, I was out. Knockout. Yeah, And that's where the adventure began. Look, that's where the adventure really started. Here's what I want to explain. No matter how strong you are, no matter how powerful you are, my friend, you're still connected to a plug. The moment it's pulled, everything's over, man. Anyway, we went into the operating room. It was tough. The surgery was really difficult. That much is clear. Like this. Because at one point the doctor came out. The situation was really bad. I didn't know it was this bad. So be prepared for anything. The operation that was supposed to take 6 hours ended up taking 8. By the way, when the doctor said this, I'm sure, look, I'll tell you what I saw now. I'm lying down. Suddenly I saw someone appear next to me. Of course, I was under anesthesia inside the operating room. Someone appeared. They came right up next to me like this. They grabbed my arm. I never forget it. Look, I never forget it. I think it was my right arm. Yes, they grabbed my right arm. They said, come on, let's go. Come with me. They said, let's take a walk. To me, that's exactly the word they used. You couldn't see their face. Seriously, look, there was no face. There were clothes, but no face. I couldn't see it, man. I said, where are we going to walk around or whatever? They said to me, come on, let's go. But they were talking to me so harshly you wouldn't believe it. Like they were talking as if scolding someone. They grabbed my arm and pulled me. They said, look, we're going to see a few things together. He said, you won't forget these, to me. I said, okay. So we went. He opened the door for me like this. Of course, how can I say he opened the door from about a meter away? He said, take a look here. I looked, my God, there was nothing as beautiful as this. There was nothing as beautiful as this. I mean, really, if you called it paradise, it was paradise. The trees were in bloom like this. People are really happy there. I was just looking from a distance. He wouldn't let me get closer. We went to another place. Again, it was the same. We tried another spot. Same result. I mean, I was so taken by it that I said, well, why don't you just leave me here? Let me stay here. He said, no. He said, no. I mean, he said, you still need to earn this place, to me. But he was speaking firmly, like, no, you need to earn this place. We'll keep walking around and seeing more.
Not in a punishing way.
No, not punishing. He's just showing me around there.
Protective.
I mean, protective? Maybe he's trying to guide me, you know? Anyway, then he grabbed my arm, turned to me and said, look, we're going to go to a door. He said, to this door. You absolutely must not look. You have nothing to do with this place. We're going to pass through here quickly. You must not, under any circumstances, look at this door. I said, well, what kind of door is it? He said, you ask too many questions. To me, I can't see his facial expression, but I can tell from his tone. We're going to go through this door quickly. All right, I said too. Why do you keep yelling at me like this? He told me, shut up. You know how when we're helping a child cross the street, we hold their hand and act protectively? We pull them along. That's exactly how he was pulling me. All right, we got to the door. I looked. This door was a bit bigger. There were two pitch black things on the sides of the door. Like, isn't it like fog? There were two things like fog, kind of invisible, but they were constantly moving. Right at the door, he opened it, or made someone open it. He told me not to look as I was passing through, inside. But as I was passing, he pulled me by the arm, and I passed through while looking like this. Man, would you believe me? Let me tell you this. I really love watching horror movies. You know, there are all kinds of creatures and stuff like that. But my God, the fear I felt at that moment, you wouldn't believe it. You just wouldn't believe it. I mean, if you call it love, it's not love, it's something else entirely. I mean, inside you could hear all sorts of noises, screaming, shouting, whatever. But seriously, I was unbelievably scared. I was incredibly scared. Then like this, she pulled me away. She said to me, didn't I tell you not to look over there? Okay, just like that. Then I said, why are you yelling? I just looked like once or something. She said, don't look over there again. You have to listen to what I say. I speak pretty harshly like this. Anyway, she took me. She led us through there. She showed me another door. I guess that was the last door. I said, you know, I should be here, I said. I mean, it's such a beautiful thing. It's really impossible to describe. I mean, let me try to explain it like this. Everywhere is just so beautiful. I don't even know how to describe it. People are so happy there. I just can't explain it. It's such a beautiful place. Then she grabbed my arm. I could really feel her squeezing my arm tightly, though. She asked me, are you ready? She said, okay. I said, ready for what? She said, I'm asking you if you're ready. I said, but ready for what? That's what I said. You know, are you ready? I said, but at the same time, I could feel her squeezing my arm. It hurt so much.
At that moment, could you sense what she was actually asking?
I realized it later. Later on, she asked for the third time, are you ready? I said, oh, I'm leaving.
She actually meant, are you ready to die?
That's what she meant. And I thought, bro, who could say they're ready for that? I mean, who could say they're ready for this? Really? I mean, could you say it? You couldn't. I mean, really, in this world, maybe a true scholar could. But even then, they couldn't say they're ready, you know? For a moment, my kids came to mind. I don't have a lot of debt, but maybe my wife doesn't know about most of it. Like, should I not go to Kulagel, to that place? These things crossed my mind. I said, my child, they're still little, you know? I said, I'm not ready. Why aren't you ready? They asked. I said, I'm not ready for this world or the next. Why? They asked. I said, my kids, I still have so much to do. That's what I said, something like that. My kids are still young. Are you the one who provides for your children? They asked me. I said, no, not me.
This part was important.
I mean, look, I'm really emotional right now. No, I said, it's God who provides, but we are a means to it. I said, that's all. But I said, I'm not ready. That's what I think. They looked at me like this. When I say looked, I mean I couldn't see them. They let go of my arm. They let go of my arm. Look, at that moment, they asked me, are you ready? When they said that, this is the logic I have. And I talk about this with my spouse too. Right at that moment, it turns out I was about to go because the doctor had gone outside and told everyone to be prepared for anything. That's probably how I understand it. But the doctor said, he's resisting a lot. You know, like this resisting. I wasn't ready either. We talk about it. It's not like I say, I must be resisting. That's what it is. I mean, I'm still trying to reason it out. No, I say, I'm not ready yet. Look, later on I made that connection. After my wife explained this, he let go of my arm. I just stood there like that, all by myself. He took 3 steps, like this. 3 steps. He turned to me, wagging his finger. He told me, perform your prayers. I said, but teacher, I already perform my prayers, he said. He said, perform your prayers regularly. Do them properly, regularly, for their due. Now, because of the rush of this world, of course you know you have that duty, but inevitably, with all the hustle and bustle, it's not just about prayer. Everything gets neglected, even though we do perform them. Aren't we neglecting everything normally? We are neglecting everything. After that, I said, okay. Is he leaving? Just checking. Does it work? Will he leave or return? He said, I'm scared after all. In the end, I understood. That was Azrael, peace be upon him. Or an angel he had assigned, When all was said and done, he managed to travel a distance of about 10 meters or so before finally stopping. Then he turned back towards me. He said, look, this time in a gentle tone of voice. He said, look, if you perform your prayers regularly, everything will be happy for you. He said it will be good, don't forget, he told me. Of course, I didn't see him smile, I didn't see his face, but with that tone of voice, he gave me such advice. Then the man left. I suddenly looked, I opened my eyes. Oh, let me say, I'm still in the hospital. I had forgotten about that. I'm in the hospital.
You had forgotten you were in the hospital.
Yes. After talking, I was both scared and happy. What can I say? And of course, you're intubated. At the same time, I looked and saw my fellow countrymen sitting there. Of course, that intubation was also bothering my throat. Naturally, you can't talk, and my hands are tied. The only thing that came to my mind was to do this, because the nurse is sitting there. God knows it's the middle of the night. Thank goodness they're sitting there too. She immediately came over to me. She said, Mr. Fatih, is something wrong? She said, well, look, you can't talk right now. She said, just answer me with yes or no. Most likely everyone reacts like that when they wake up, I guess. She asked, are you in pain? I shook my head like this. She told me to blink as an answer. Is your stomach upset? I said. I said yes. Then she said, well, since my hand was tied, I told her I wanted to write something. After that, I thought I was writing, but then I fiddled with a pen or something. From the way I moved the pen, from the tip of the pen, look, to that nurse over there, may God bless them all, 1,000 times. May God bless all those nurses and doctors in the cardiac intensive care unit at Gazi University 1,000 times over. She said, the device, it's squeezing your throat. I thought I was writing that I couldn't breathe. For example, she puts it on something like this or that. Are you having trouble breathing? She asked. I said yes. Mr. Fatih, don't resist the device. She said, don't resist the device. Look, now I'm going to give you a painkiller. She said, I'm going to give you something for nausea, for you. Do you want to sleep? She asked. I said yes. Then I did what she said. I just let myself go like this. I fell asleep. The next day, of course, I don't know what time it was that night, but in the morning, Abdullah Hoka came, the doctor who performed the surgery. That guy, he's a legend. Abdullah Ozer. Of course, I was lying down. He said to me, let's wake up this heroic Turkish soldier and see. Exactly like that. He didn't say it to me. I could hear, but everything looked blurry to me. I couldn't see anything. So, thanks to the doctor there, she woke me up saying, Fatih Bey, and so on. I woke up like this. He said to me, how are you, heroic Turkish soldier? He said. Of course, my hands were tied. I did this. Do you know what he said to me? And then, honestly, I get emotional too. He said, man. He said, you were about to cry at that moment. From happiness. He said, it's impossible for you to have managed this. He said, don't think of this as if you had heart surgery. He said, a truck ran over you, son. A truck. He said, a truck ran over you. And he said, "You're so lucky. Thank God you never smoked." He said, "Thank God you never drank alcohol." He said, "Your body," he said, "your body's really strong, your muscles are good, and you fought hard. You fought." He said to me, "You fought, son, man." It really moved me. So what I'm trying to say is this. In life, look, in life, I mean, from my perspective, I have this idea. God gives everyone a right. One right. So in this world, to win the next world, you have to use that right very well. And you should never hurt anyone. I mean, we need to remove regrets from our lives. We need to do whatever we want. In other words, to live well both in this world and the next, we need to live this life well. Therefore, we need to use this right of ours wisely. People are upsetting you. Don't be upset, man. Just don't upset anyone yourself. I mean, don't violate anyone's rights. That's always been my stance. So therefore, we need to live this right to the fullest. Later on, I asked the teacher about what I had experienced. I mean, this teacher is really knowledgeable. Like if I called him a scholar, he truly is a scholar, someone like that. The teacher said to me, "Yeah, dear, you missed a huge opportunity." "Yeah." "How so, teacher?" I asked. He said, "Are you ready?" He says, look, you have nothing to do with this place. He basically meant, look, you're going to go there. I said, "Teacher, please, for God's sake." I said, "Look, I'm telling you, you're older than me."
He says he showed you paradise.
Yeah, that's what he says.
When you finally returned home, and when you were reunited with your old companions, what exactly did you bring back here with you?
Do you know what I brought back? I became more transparent, man. Right after the surgery, I gathered the kids. "All right, sit down." "Look," I said, "I went through all of this. Any of us could experience this, because death doesn't have an order. You know how we say, may God grant us deaths in order, but there really is no order to this. When your time comes, it doesn't care about your age or anything, man. It just takes you away. There's that saying, people die when their time is up. You don't die before your time, man." I immediately sat my kids down. I told them all of this. I gave them advice. I told my wife, "Write this down." In fact, I wrote it myself. Look, if I die, these are our debts, I mean. Thank God I don't have a lot of debt anyway. That's when I felt this. Because you shouldn't be a black box. Others should know about your life too. They should know so that they can act accordingly. Now, the afterlife, it's not really a big deal. Look, for example, it's been about 6 years since then. I still think about this teacher. This world feels to me like it's kind of virtual.
You mean, is it here? What, that's real? Is this place a dream or is the other side real? I mean, some people perceive the other side as hypothetical and this place as the real thing. I mean, in this dilemma, of course, everyone knows what the reality is, but in terms of comprehension, there's quite a bit missing. For example, a person knows they should perform the 5 daily prayers, but some motivation is needed. One of those motivations, for instance, is the morning prayer. It is witnessed. So you're not alone? Well, you're not alone anyway. The morning prayer is witnessed. For example, for some people, this is the motivation that helps them continue with the morning prayer. For instance, some people's motivation for the afternoon prayer is this. Pay attention to the middle prayer. Morning, peace and blessings be upon him. The middle prayer is the afternoon prayer. It is known that he gave great importance to it. So for some people, this is the motivation not to miss the afternoon prayer. For example, for some, the motivation for the night prayer is different. We actually know this too, just like that. We're going to the other side. There's no escape from it. But now we've gotten too caught up in worldly affairs. The Lord of the world says, I taught Adam the names. In other words, I taught the names, I taught everything. But when we come here, because we get so immersed in visuals, we move away from the mode that was instilled in us in the past.
So, is what you call reality here? Is this real or is that real? Both are real. Do you know why? Because to attain true reality, you need to live the reality of this world very well. You need to live it very well. And so, what did he say? Our Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, as if you will never die. You should live for this world as if you will never die, and for the hereafter as if you will die tomorrow. Look, this already... As long as you live by this principle, what you mentioned, praying, yes, of course, prayer will not leave a person stranded. But of course, just praying is not enough. I mean, you know that. But look, being a good person is important. Look, being a good person is important. You know, there's a saying, they say, no good deed goes unpunished. It's a classic saying among Jews, at least that's how I see it. Goodness begets goodness. You never know what you'll encounter in life.
What matters is why you do good.
I mean,
if you do good deeds just so others will notice, That can ultimately fall short.
You probably shouldn't do anything just for show.
You might not get enough in return from others. If you can only do good for the sake of making money, well, there are only a handful of truly wealthy people in the world. They still sleep less than I do, work harder than I do, so apparently there's no end to money either. But they do everything for the sake of God's approval. This also touches people's lives. People benefit from these things, and if you say, let God know this, and whoever else wants to know, let them know too,
Yes.
then every good deed you do has a multiplier. It doesn't disappear.
Of course not.
None of your hard work will ever go to waste. But if you do it just so others will applaud you, or only to make some money,
That's our problem.
money runs out, applause fades, and when fame is gone, everything ends.
So, for example, they talk about doing good. For instance, they've come out and said so. Take my rich friend, for instance. They're very good to their surroundings. They set up a foundation, a certain president. All just for themselves. What I mean by kindness is this. I mean living life well, and as you pass by people saying, Salamun alaikum, hello, how are you? Even look at someone you don't know. For example, when I get in the elevator, I say, Salamun alaikum, what's up? Hey man, are you okay? He just looks at me like this. Come on, you should ask too. I'm good, bro. How are you? That's what I'm saying, for example. We don't teach this to our kids. Now, unfortunately, a social behavior has reached its peak. But all these things I've experienced have taught me some really beautiful lessons. I've started to look at life in a much better way. And the afterlife, I've started to understand even better that I should never neglect it.
You've started to react to things in a more relaxed way.
Absolutely. There's no need. By nature, you can observe things like a soldier. Whether you want to or not, you calm down much faster now. But then you take a deep breath for a moment.